optimists about AI underestimate how difficult it is to have an AI fully take over someone's actual work from start to finish.
What is the most uncomfortable moment you've had while writing about AI so far?
For me, the answer is clearly writing about California AI bill SB 1047.
How are you guys using AI in your own work, if you're tinkering with that at all?
If I'm diving into something that's a pretty new area, I'll kind of do a deep research thing, and
Is AI going to replace us?
The real kind of cutting journalism, I don't see it.
I'm not against AI, but I think I often find that when I think that I know a subject, and then when I actually start writing about it, I find out I didn't know it as clearly as I thought I did. And the writing process helps you actually understand and reflect and be a better communicator. So I don't want to lose that. I think that's very true.
This is not the first AI wave many of us have covered. How is this one different from your perspectives?
I mean, I can start. Is this on for me? Okay. I grew up in Silicon Valley. I have not seen this kind of excitement, also fear, since I was a kid and the dot-com bubble was forming, which dates me for better or worse. I just think that, of course, AI was always an important part. I covered big tech. I covered Google, Facebook, right? AI was always powering the algorithms for search, for social feeds. But now the fact that it is something that people feel like they are almost treating as its own entity, that it is like a new type of intelligence that, some people believe is sort of approaching sentience, that is completely new. That was the stuff of science fiction. That was, singularity is near, and now it is actually potentially here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this actually is the first kind of wave of generative AI that I've, covered, this wave of AI. And I have to say, this kind of wave is really so new that it is actually very welcoming to kind of newcomers to the field. I was just listening to this interview with one of Anthropic's co-founders, Jared Kaplan, and he was, working as a physicist 10 years ago. He was the kind of just working on something completely different. And now he is one of the leading minds and voices in this stuff. So I think it's just really kind of showing how new this is and how everyone is still trying to kind of get a grasp on what it is, even the people at the forefront of it. So
I think one aspect of it is, we're at the beginning of it, it was very focused on language. I remember in 2012 when it was image classifiers and there was kind of this bit of excitement about that. But I think one way to think about what's happening now is that the difference is we've figured out how to throw just massive amounts of computing power at these models in a way that we've never done before. Plus we have, the GPUs that can contain this power. And the magic happens when this computing power is introduced. And the magic is something we don't even fully understand, what's really happening among the levels of these massive models. So I think for good or bad, that's one big difference between what's going on now with generative and earlier waves.
Did you guys have a sense of a little bit of skepticism a couple years ago when, ChatGPT came out and all this started? Because I'm old enough to remember in 2015, 2016, we had all the chatbots and then half of them were just humans behind, the app. So I personally was oh no, more of that a couple years ago. How did you guys feel? Were you skeptical, or did you know that there's real technology advancement?
Yeah, I think there's always some hesitation but I felt as soon as I actually tried ChatGPT, and I think, millions of other people felt the same way, it felt very different than earlier iterations of chatbots we had seen. Microsoft, I think, had a pretty disastrous one that started saying really inappropriate things. Facebook had something similar. And so very quickly, the other chatbots would go off the rails, which is not to say ChatGPT didn't have its problems. We all remember the Sydney moment. But it was more or less a pretty workable tool right away that you could have continue conversations with. And so that for me set it apart. How exactly that would monetize, how big of a business this would become, whether we would see this become a sustained product that changes the way people work, communicate, I wasn't sure just how much, but I knew it was different.
Yeah, I think that, as an AI reporter, you have to approach every product with a certain amount of skepticism, and that includes like right from the start, But I think, especially like the chat interface is just so compelling, like when you use it. And I think everyone's kind of had that kind of like, wow, that can do a lot more than I thought it would. And it's kind of like takes you aback a little bit. I think like, ChatGPT's voice mode was another kind of like wow moment for a lot of people. And yeah, but I think you kind of have to come into all of this with like, can it really do that? And really just kind of see with your own eyes and trust that.
I kind of remember that holy shit moment with ChatGPT. I think it was pretty early on. But I also remember some moments pretty shortly after that where like we all rushed up to Seattle to see Microsoft's big entry into the generative AI age and its Copilot. And I could see that on a language level, it was a large language model that, kind of was doing some impressive things. But I remember being really kind of disappointed about how dumb it was. I mean, like, there were hallucinations going on during the demos, and also it didn't know anything. It knew what it had learned from what it scraped from the public internet, and it didn't know how much plane tickets cost. It didn't know anything about me, and there was just a lot of.
If it didn't know that, then
Yeah, I guess it would have been a little weird if it had known, but. Anyway, there's a lot of these things of, they've really made ground on some of these things. Like those connections are being made now, and, they're using different means of dealing with hallucinations. But I really agree about the skepticism. I mean, I've had quite a few holy shit moments, like since I've been writing about this, and it's important not to get carried away because like a holy shit moment can kind of like happen in a vacuum, and that moment might be sort of worthless, like out in a business somewhere. So yeah, that's
okay. But what are you guys still skeptical about? What claims are you like just not buying?
I mean, I don't think I'm not buying it, but I think there are still a lot of hurdles. I think people underestimate the optimists about AI underestimate how difficult it is to have an AI fully take over someone's actual work from start to finish. I think, a lot of businesses this is still very new for them. They're doing this in a pilot or first year, second year. I'm one of the few tech journalists who have worked in enterprise software. My first job out of college, because I could not get a job in media, was working at a enterprise software doing supply chain management. And I remember how hard it was to, yes, people see the value in the tool, but to get everybody using it, to get people off of legacy systems they had been using for 30 plus years and to switch onto your little nifty iPhone app. And that's assuming the thing works, which as we're all talking about, these AI tools still sometimes struggle, right, to do even basic parts of people's job well, even if in another moment they can have this great insight and, do a part of someone's job really, really well. They can be both incredibly sharp and incredibly stupid at the same time. And so I think if you're going to have something actually replace or change the way you do work fundamentally, you want it to be, more reliable than a human being, and you have to really feel comfortable using it. And so I think that kind of remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, the place I come on this is like, I feel like the ChatGPT moment happened in 2022, and like since then, there's like more than 1 billion people talking to chatbots every month, and like that to me is like, I'm so convinced that it is a great thing to like talk to and get information out of. And then I think almost everything besides that is still a little like dubious of like how much it can really do. So like, I think, clearly like there's software engineering, like, there's a lot of value there. But like when you talk about like these like Operator or like Project Mariner, like these kind of like agents that can just go out on the web and do anything for you. I mean, it's like that is general intelligence. Like you can just do any general task. Like that is still feels a long way out. So there's a lot to go there. But
Yeah, I think that's the agents concept is something that the industry is talking a lot about and built on this inference technology that supports reasoning or thinking, a lot of anthropomorphizing, and kind of have to be careful what terms you use because I don't know if it's really thinking, but I think that's the thing that I'm skeptical of because there are people out there that are saying, this is going to completely rewire the way your company works. You're just going to have, 5 agents from legal interfacing with 5 agents from product design. And, it's just going to be this agent fest. And I just think that because of like what you were talking about, like the endless complexities that human beings can create and that businesses run on from day to day. I guess that's what I just can't wrap my head around that right now. There are some things that in practice, I don't know if they can be reliably automated. I'll probably be proven wrong in time, but that's the part that I'm having trouble swallowing right now.
Agent Fest. I think you coined that. You heard it here first. I want to get into how AI is impacting our industry and our jobs. But first, I want to ask you guys, what is the most uncomfortable moment you've had while writing about AI so far?
I would say, like, for me, like the answer is clearly writing about this California AI bill, SB 1047, was just like, it was this bill that was trying to codify kind of these doomerist kind of beliefs into law in a certain way. Like it was really trying to protect against the most extreme risks like death and like financial crimes over like $500 million. And, the passion that people fought with that in the AI community, it just made it honestly so uncomfortable to write about. Like people would be like, you don't understand, like we need something like this, like the world depends on it, on one side, and on the other they're like, these people are trying to bring down technology and like the government is trying to control AI, like truly wild stuff, just like the most kind of passionate debate I've ever seen as a reporter. So that was it.
I just want to, yeah, I remember that. Like as a journalist, like you don't want to like have one conversation with a source and kind of be going, yeah, and then get on another call with another source with a different opinion, and after that call go, yeah, that's a bad place to be. And that's where I was on that bill because there are some very smart people and very financially motivated people. So yeah, that was tough.
For the last 2 minutes we have, let's talk about AI and our jobs, our wonderful jobs that hopefully we might still have someday. How are you guys using AI in your own work, if you're tinkering with that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like, as a journalist who writes about this every day, I feel like I need to like occasionally see like, can this thing do my job? So like I like do occasionally, I'm like, all right, let's see how it like writes up this article real quick. And it's not very good. Like maybe when I was like a freshman in college, sophomore in college, like maybe, all right, like maybe it could do something like that, which is, not nothing. But I do think that like something I actually do find it useful for writing is like once you finish writing something, kind of plugging it in and saying like, what are the holes in this? Like where could this like kind of be better? Where could this be flushed out more or something? Just kind of asking it for like advice before you send it to an editor or something like that often saves my editor, like one correction or something like that. So
yeah, it's I do use it. I not very creatively probably, and there's a reason for that. I mean, if I'm diving into something that's a pretty new area for me, I'll kind of do like a deep research thing, and like kind of if it's something that I need to kind of quickly get acclimated on, and I can sort of do some triangulation like on telling like how reliable the information is. And so I found it pretty useful for that. But there's this weird phenomenon that I'm sure other people have noticed. Like, I love music and I've written music before. And so I have this terrible aversion to the whole idea of like using an AI model to write a song. There's just something that makes me immediately cringe about that. And so like, I guess I've kind of done that experiment that you're talking about before. Like you can feed it 20 of my articles, and say, hey, write like this. But I don't know. I'm not eager to do that because it's like it cuts too close to what I like to do. And I just don't want to put AI there.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible research tool, especially if you don't know, when you're going into a subject and you sort of don't know where to start. I feel like it can be very helpful for just giving you kind of it can add structure where there is none, I think. Obviously, I'm like very hesitant to use anything that I see from AI chatbots without double checking that there are no hallucinations, that this is all correct, that the citations check out. But yeah, I much like you, I've not yet. I feel like there is pride that we as writers take in our crafts, and I think that's okay. And I interviewed a famous writer, Rebecca Solnit, when I started my AI newsletter, and I asked her how she felt about her works seemingly being used in a data set that trained a bunch of AI systems. And she said, look, I might have been fine with it. I wish they had asked me. But she said, more broadly, I'm not against AI, but I think that AI helps me as a writer think. I often find that when I think that I know a subject, and then when I actually start writing about it, I find out I didn't know it as clearly as I thought I did. And the writing process helps you actually understand and reflect and be a better communicator. So I don't want to lose that. I think that's very true. And that's why, for now, I'm still doing the writing.
Same. My last question, because we have like a minute left, for you guys, kind of a common question. Is AI going to replace us? And what does our industry look like 5-10 years from now that AI is here?
I mean, there's certainly people who are trying to there's like job postings for like AI assisted journalists like on LinkedIn and stuff. So like there's so many people who are trying it. But no, I think that like people who can kind of see through lines that haven't been told yet, people who can, talk to people inside of companies, people who can kind of get the core insight of like what's going on the cutting edge. I really don't think that there's a way that AI can do that part of it. So aggregation, maybe, but the real kind of cutting journalism, I don't see it.
Yeah, I'd say ditto to that. Yeah.
Succinct. Okay, well, on that note, thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you guys.